feet out to wider than hips distance on your mat. Toes point forward. And we're just going to start by kind of just getting a little bit of the wiggles out. So just start to shift your hips left and right. I have my hands on my hips and I'm just lifting one hip towards my rib cage and then the other. And just kind of like, giving a little sass, like back and forth here. This may feel kind of good. For me, I always have to remember not to lock out my knees when I do this. I want to just like sit here and kind of tip my pelvis back and lock my knees out. But instead of locking your knees out, just kind of allow your knees to bend and straighten and bend and straighten. And maybe, accentuate that movement. So let your hips kind of lead left and right. And as you let your hips lead left and right, maybe start to get your arms involved. Maybe start to reach over towards the opposite direction. So as your hip is moving towards the right, you're reaching towards the left. And as your hip is moving towards the left, you're reaching towards the right. So kind of a little bit of like a jazzercise move this morning. And let your head kind of move around. Let your eyes move around, just bending into each leg. I thought we'd start a little bit differently today, just give ourselves a little bit of changing things up. We don't always have to start sitting on the mat. Sometimes starting with a little bit of movement is a good idea. And then go ahead and come back to stillness. And just with that movement, I'm starting to get a little warm. My heat just kicked on. And go ahead and take your feet so that your toes are pointing out. And we're just going to start to do little bitty kind of goddess squats. So you're not going to come all the way back up to stand, but you're just going to kind of work in this space where you're bending and coming back up. And if you want, you can take your hands to heart center. You can take your hands to your thighs. You can take your hands to your hips. So if you've ever done ballet or a lot of dance, this is like a second position plie, if you would. So your knees are tracking out towards your toes. And just kind of bending and straightening into the hips, into the knees. And we're going to add on a little bit of arms here. So as you squat down, reach that right arm over towards the right side, and then stand up, and then squat down, reach that left arm over towards the left side, stand up, and we're just going to go back and forth here. So as you squat, you're reaching. It may seem a little counterintuitive, but we're working on opening up the side body here. And you can move as quickly or as slowly as you like. May seem kind of funny, but don't worry, we will get down onto the ground here. And we'll take 2 more of those, one on each side. So here's one to the left, and here's one to the right. And then go ahead and take your feet so that both toes are facing forward. Maybe walk them slightly even wider than you had them before. Take your hands to your hips, and we're going to do just a nice little forward fold here. So you can start to move your chest down towards the mat. Maybe your hands come to the mat, maybe fingertips, and then just start to bend and straighten into each individual knee. So I'm bending my right knee and then my left. And here, if your hands are on the floor, that's awesome. If not, you can also take your hands to your shins as you bend and straighten. That'll give you a little bit more kind of room if your legs are feeling really tight. But I'm going to take my hands back down to the mat, and I'm going to drag my hands, pressing the palms into the mat towards my feet. So it's like I'm pulling my shoulders down and away from my ears. There's a little bit more activation here. A little bit more kind of movement here. And then from here, go ahead and find some stableness, some steadiness in the center. And maybe just for a moment, bring your legs to or towards straight, and then just start to rock forward on your toes and back on your heels. So I'm keeping my hands on the mat. And if your hands are on your shins, as you go back, that's cool. And then as you come forward, you can take your hands down to your mat so you don't tip over. But just kind of moving the heart forward and back. And as you move that heart forward, see if you can do that same movement and drag the palms of your hands towards the tops of your feet. And then go ahead and come to center. You're going to plant your left hand down in front of your face and sweep that right arm up towards the sky, opening out towards that right leg. And your pelvis can shift here. And then exhale, come back down. Take that right hand down in front of your face. Reach that left arm up towards the sky. Maybe gaze up, maybe keep your gaze down, just kind of depending on how you're feeling right now. And then go ahead and lower. We're going to do that one more time on each side, twisting over towards the right. Allow your pelvis to shift. We're not trying to keep it square or stable. And then over towards the right. And then go ahead and take your hands back to the center of your mat. You're going to walk your feet, kind of creepy crawl back towards the middle so that your feet come just slightly wider than your pelvis. So if my pelvis is here, my feet are slightly wider. Turn your toes out like you're going to be duck-footed, like you're about to kind of squat down, because we are going to squat down. And go ahead and start to sink your hips towards the mat. You can take your hands down to the mat and you're just going to shift your hips left and right. I'm letting my pelvis move, letting my feet kind of stretch here, feeling the compression into the front of the hips. And then when you're ready, you can go ahead and just come down to sit. If you'd like to grab your blanket to sit on, you are more than welcome. I'm actually going to set myself up to do just that. So once you've come down to sit, go ahead and just take your hands to your thighs, and we're going to start to just do that half moon rock. So chest comes forward and to the right, and then forward and to the left. So you may feel a little warm from all that kind of initial movement. That's totally okay. We're just looking to move a little bit of energy here. Or if you haven't noticed, we're taking the energy down onto the ground. We're moving it from everything that's up in our shoulders and our heads and our necks down into the earth. Working with the idea of, once again, something we talked about earlier this week, but of, being able to take in stuff from the world, take in stuff from the outside, our family, our friends, those we love, even society, and then be able, just for a little while, to kind of move that energy through and down. So once again, we're just going to do 2 more on each side. So here's 1 to the right and 1 to the left. And then our last 1 to the right and our last 1 to the left. Come back to sit center here. Find a nice long spine. If you need to shift the way that your feet are set up, go ahead and interlace your hands behind your head at the base of your skull. And then press your head back into your hands and maybe gaze slightly up towards sort of where the corner of your room and your ceiling meet. Draw your elbows back and press your head into your hands. This may give you that super attractive double chin. It's all good. Nobody's looking at you, so don't worry about it. And here, just see if you can draw your elbows slightly wider, lift your heart just a little bit. Press your head back into your hands. Take a deep breath. And then, a lot like we did when we were standing, we're just going to start to dip that left shoulder, left elbow towards the mat, come back up through center, and then dip the right. So again, kind of pressing our heads back into the hands while we're doing this dip. It doesn't have to be a dip big, drop your elbow to the floor kind of move, but just a little bit of a movement here. Notice if things kind of crack or pop or crackle. I know my upper thoracic spine is being talkative right now. And then as we continue to move, you're going to start to unlace those fingertips, and then as you reach over towards the right, you're going to Reach that left arm up overhead and then come back to center. And then you're going to go to the opposite side. So just kind of extending that top arm. So if you're bending over towards the left, you're reaching that right hand. And then if you're bending over towards the right, you're reaching that left. And really trying to keep the elbows kind of away from the peripheral vision. So you shouldn't, like if I'm looking straight forward, I'm not really seeing my elbows. Try to keep your elbows as wide as possible. And then go ahead and come back to center. Just interlace those fingers one more time. Press that head into the hands. Lift your chin. You may notice that your voice changes or that you want to clear your throat. Totally all good. Just changing position and orientation with gravity. If you want to kind of rock side to side or wiggle, feel free to do that. Go ahead and release. And find a nice long spine. Maybe close your eyes. If you feel like you want to kind of wiggle or rock, you're welcome to do that just a little bit. If you want more, you can feel free to take more, but just see if you can kind of start to let that rocking, that movement kind of settle down. We started with a lot of movement. We're going to start to kind of move, like I said, more down onto the ground and find a little stillness. So once you find that stillness, what I'd like you to do is just take a moment to kind of rock your pelvis forward and back so that you find that spot where it feels really easeful, feels really comfortable to kind of sit up straight. Maybe draw your shoulder blades towards one another. Draw those tips of your shoulders out towards the side. And then take a nice long deep breath, let your belly fill. And exhale out through pursed lips. And then inhale. Then exhale out through pursed lips. Maybe make a sound. One more time. Inhale. And on your exhale, see if you can just draw your shoulder blades towards each other, drop them down your back, and exhale out. And then just return to your normal breath. And as you breathe, what I'd like you to do is send your awareness down into your pelvis. Notice where it contacts the blanket or the earth. And see if as you breathe, you can soften that whole band around your pelvis, that whole belly band all the way around the low back. As you breathe, let that belly soften, let that kind of fill and release. And imagine that you're just drawing energy down from your shoulders, from your neck, from your heart, down into the pelvis, and then just letting it move out of you onto the mat, down into the earth. And just take a few minutes just imagining that energy moving down. Imagining a softness kind of filling your belly, filling your low back. And as you imagine that, notice if your shoulders drop away from your ears. Notice how it feels to breathe into that deep belly space. And just take a few moments here. Make kind of any adjustments that you might need to come into your Shavasana. If you'd like to climb off of your blanket so that it's not sort of digging into your upper back or your shoulders, you can feel free to do that. You can move that blanket around so that it comes to your lap or your belly. You can lie it long ways along your torso. That's always a really nice way to kind of reset. And just kind of settle in. Notice if you feel a sort of warmth or tingling that's moving down from the back of your neck down through your shoulders, maybe all the way down into your low back and into your pelvis. Imagine it like water that's pooling to the lowest parts of your body, backs of the shoulders, backs of the hips. And as you feel that energy just pool, know that you don't have to hold on to it. Know that you can let it pool and let it seep out. Know that you can let it pool and let it go. Know that holding it doesn't necessarily serve you or help you serve others. So if you're looking for a way to be of service to others in your life or in your family, know that you have to clear out the space. Know that you have to just move through anything that's come up and let it metabolize and let it move through you. And just let it go. Just take a few breaths and let that energy just flow out. Let the earth hold it. Know that it's always there if you need to pick it back up, but also know that you don't need to carry it with you. That carrying with you, it doesn't do you any good. It doesn't do the person or the people that you're trying to assist any good. Just kind of gums up the works. Take a few more breaths here. And then when you're ready, just slowly begin to invite waves of movement back into your body, whether it's wiggling your fingers, rolling your wrists around, wiggling your toes, just kind of like you're taking a moment to kind of wake the body up. And then on your next inhale, go ahead and take a nice long good morning stretch. Reach the arms up overhead. Take your legs out long. Maybe do a little bit of that extending one leg and then extending the other, like you're trying to make one leg longer than the other. And then on your exhale, just roll over to your left or right. Take a moment. Pause and feel a little gratitude for the movement that you've been able to do this morning, that you've enjoyed. And then when you're ready, just gently shift your shoulders more towards the earth and press down to sit up. And find an easy seat. And once you've found that easy seat, once again, just tip your pelvis forward and back and find a little bit of that easeful spot. See if you can find that place where you're like, oh yeah, this feels easeful. Easeful is the best way I can describe it. There's not a muscular effort in it. It feels stable and strong, but it also feels soft. And once you've found that spot, just come to stillness. Take a deep breath in and blow out through pursed lips. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhale. And exhale out through pursed lips. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Once more. Inhale. And exhale out through pursed lips. And then just let that soft belly take over. Let your breath expand into the pelvis, expand into the soft belly. Move that energy down into the earth. Go ahead and take your hands to heart center. And gently rest your thumbs against your sternum as you feel your sternum lift up back into your thumbs. And bow your head towards your heart. I'm so grateful to have you guys on the mat with me today. I'm so grateful that you show up every day. It's just as good for my soul as it feels for yours. And all of the love and light in me bows to and honors all of the love and light in each one of you. Namaste.